From Isaiah chapter 55 and verse number 8. Before I get started, I want to give honor to our pastor and Sister Blankenship, and Pastor and Sister Bembry, and Pastor and Sister Clay, and Pastor and Sister Towns. We have a great set of pastors. I'm going to be reading from Isaiah 55 and verse 8. This is a notable quotable. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. For as the rain cometh down, and the snow from heaven, and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth, and maketh it bring forth and bud, that it may give seed to the sower, and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. You may be seated. It is not uncommon for us to think we know what's coming next. It's not uncommon for us to hope our life is going to go in a certain direction. It's not uncommon for us to seek help on what we think is going to happen. It's not uncommon for our life not to fit other people's narrative. It's not uncommon for us to think parts of our story is over. It's not uncommon for us to dwell on the mistakes that we made. It's not uncommon for us to think that we've reached a point of no return. But verse number 8 tells us His thoughts are not our thoughts, and His ways are not our ways. Verse number 11 says, His word will not return unto Him void. If we continue walking in His ways, what He said will happen. It has nothing to do with our mistakes. It has nothing to do with what other people said. It has nothing to do with what we thought was going to happen or how we thought it was going to happen. If we're not careful, we begin to think, okay, God has taken me in that direction. Here's the straight line to get to that point. But God has a funny way of doing things. Sometimes you're going this way and you're going that way and over here and you're like, God, I'm going in circles. But He's saying you're still going in the direction that I have for you. It doesn't matter what you think you see. And it doesn't matter what other people have said. Though I will tell you to listen to the ministry in your life. It also doesn't matter what typically happens. I want to close with the story of Zacharias, John the Baptist's dad. We know this story well. In verse number 5, and I'm going to paraphrase here for a little bit, but in verse number 5, we are introduced to the priest Zacharias. While burning incense before the Lord, he was approached by an angel. He was told that he and his wife, even though they were old, they were going to have a son named John. But he did not believe him. So the angel took his voice. In verse number 57, John was born. Mom and Dad named him John. But nobody in the family was named John, so they didn't believe him. But like I said, Dad agreed. Dad got his voice back. And as far as most of us are concerned, that's the end of the story. I have news for you. There's a whole nother step to this story. See, in verse number 67, it says, and his father Zacharias was filled with the Holy Ghost and prophesied, saying. You see, like I said, his story was not over. If his story was over, we would have missed the first adult to receive the Holy Ghost. He was the first person to prophesy in the New Testament. It wasn't Jesus, it wasn't John. It was the guy who didn't believe and lost his voice. Because his story wasn't over. He never quit. I'm telling you, saints, your story's not over. I don't care what you see. I don't care what you think is going on or what you think is going to happen. If God said it, my dad used to tell me, if God said it, I believe it, and that settles it.